Now, I don't want to be dramatic, but this may be the most important football season in Texas State history. It's our last chance to win a Sun Belt championship, and it's our last chance to beat the dreaded ULL as a conference foe. And let's be honest, this season is either going to propel us into the Pac-12 or have us limping in. And so if this is the most important season in Texas State football history, what does success look like? Welcome back to Wizard Wednesday. I'm your host, Zach, and this is it. The final season in the Sun Belt for Texas State. And this team, this program, has some unfinished business to take care of. Let's be honest. The last decade at the FBS level, Texas State hasn't exactly checked all the boxes that matter. We've never won the Sun Belt. We've never beaten ULL. Never won more than 8 games in a season. And that's what I mean by unfinished business. If this is the most important season for Texas State in history, you can't leave the Sun Belt without at least beating ULL. But it would be nice to go to a championship game, and it'd be amazing to win a championship game, a Sun Belt championship, as we leave for the Pac-12. So if you saw this week's episode of Win Our Get Bent, Kef and I went through and made our record predictions. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link up top. But I said 8-4, Kef said 9-3. The question remains as to whether that is good enough to make it to a Sun Belt championship game. So we'll dive into that. We'll look at the past 5 seasons to see what are the records of the teams that made it those past 5 seasons. And then we'll also look at what expectations mean for this school. The past 2 years, expectations have risen each season. The first season, we were just looking to go to a bowl game. This team went 7-5, 8-5 after the bowl game, and everyone was happy in San Marcos. It was heaven. Last season, the team went 8-5 again, and there was a weird shadow over this program of not reaching its full potential because of the expectations of the year before, but also because of what they brought back in talent and experience. So this isn't the same type of season, so we'll dive into that a little bit. And we'll see, considering everything, considering the players we're bringing back, the lack of experience, you could say, of this team, and then also knowing that we want to put ourselves in the best position to compete in the pack, to have a good storyline going into the pack, but also taking care of the business that we haven't so far in the Sun Belt this year. We'll kind of look at the season as a whole and figure out what do I think is a success. And really, I want to hear from you as we're talking about what it takes to get to a Sun Belt championship, what that might look like this year at Texas State. What do you think? What's a winning season for you in your mind? Or what is a successful season in your mind? And what are your expectations? Do you expect us to reach the success, the level, the bar of success that you're looking for? Or is your level of success higher than your expectations for the season? We'll talk about my perspective on that as well. But let's begin by looking at the history of the Sun Belt Championship game, the last 5 seasons, to see what is the bar. How many Sun Belt games can we lose and maybe get in, or how many Sun Belt games can we lose and definitely get in? So let's start there with a quick recap. Let's look at the past 5 Sun Belt Championship games to determine where the bar is. How many games can we afford to win or lose and still make the game? What are our expectations? So in 2019, the game was between App State and Louisiana. App State had a Sun Belt record of 7-1. Louisiana had a record of 7-1 as well. So they lost 1 Sun Belt game all year. 2020, it was Coastal Carolina versus Louisiana again. Or sorry, ULL. I might have to go edit that out. I may have called them Louisiana last. Anyways, Coastal 8-0 on the season. ULL was 7-1 on the season in Sun Belt play. This is in 2020. 2021, ULL again at 8-0 in Sun Belt play. App State 7-1 Sun Belt play. 2022, Troy was 7-1 in Sun Belt play and made the championship game. Coastal 6-2, but remember JMU was not eligible. They would have made it. I believe they won. I believe they lost one Sun Belt game that year, but they were ineligible for the postseason. So it was 2022. 2023, Troy went 7-1. App State went 6-2. So that's another 6-2 team. And last year's Sun Belt Championship game was obviously between Marshall and ULL. Both teams had a record of 7-1 in Sun Belt Conference play. So when we look at my 8-4 record, Kef's 9-3 record, it's probably not going to be good enough overall, depending on where those losses are. If 3 of the 4 losses in an 8-4 season happen in non-conference play, we have a shot. Same goes for Kefs. If 3 of those losses or even 2 of those losses are in non-conference, that's potentially good enough, especially if you factor in who we beat in season, where we have tiebreakers. I will say that if you watch that episode, I don't want to spoil the whole thing, because if you haven't watched it, I'm hoping that you have, but if you haven't, you really should. It's really fun content. Probably the most fun I've had making content on this channel. So please go watch that. But if you go back and look at it, I know my 4 losses are Arizona State, Arkansas State in a trap game, Southern Miss, and JMU. And so in my scenario, that is 3 Sun Belt losses. That's not going to cut it. That ain't going to happen. Kef's 3 losses, I believe, are Arizona State. I think he has us beating JMU. I think he has us losing to Marshall. Then I'm not sure who the 3rd loss is on Kef's. But if that's only 2, that's only 1 Sun Belt loss. So in Kef's scenario, 9-3, there's a potential you could actually lose 2 Sun Belt games and sneak in. I'd say it's a little bit more difficult in the West. We've seen it happen in the East a couple times with Coastal Carolina. I'm not sure that that's going to do it in the West, but it might. Realistically, we need to sweep the Sun Belt. We might be able to afford to lose to JMU, but we have to beat ULL. We have to beat Troy, have to beat Marshall, have to beat Southern Miss. There's a lot of potentially really good teams this year that this football program is going to have to beat in order to reach their goals, which their stated goals for the last 3 years is conference championship, right? Making it there, winning. I think if you put us in a conference championship, all bets are off that we have a shot against anyone in the conference. Now, consistently putting together win after win after win after win is incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult. Even a powerhouse team has difficulty putting it together every single week. But that's what you have to do if you want to win the Sun Belt West. You need to win 8 games. You might be able to afford to win 7. You really can't afford to lose 2 Sun Belt Conference games. So that's the harsh reality of it. In my scenario, it's a good season, potentially, but we don't make the conference playoffs. We don't make the conference championship game. So let's take a deeper dive into what I think a good season is, what you think a good season is, and should we be okay with not going to the conference championship game? So is an 8-4 season, a 9-3 season where we miss the Sun Belt Championship, is that a success? Or is it doom and gloom again like this past offseason? And I think realistically, if we're looking at where this program is, if we're looking at how we want to set ourselves up to go into the Pac-12, I think an 8-4 season is fine. I think it's an improvement. I think that those 8 wins need to come in season. 8 wins with a bowl game included, which is the same that's kind of happened the last few years. I don't think that's enough. I think we need to show some improvement. I think that this team, this coaching staff, I think they can do that. I think this team could go on a run and prove my prediction wrong, and I would love that. There's just a lot of unknowns. But the thing that is consistent is this coaching staff led by G.J. Kinney. Yes, there's a new offensive coordinator, but Landon Keppel has been here since the beginning of the G.J. Kinney era, if you will. Dexter McCoyle improved on the defense last year. I expect more improvement this year. And yes, you may look at the roster and say this is not as proven as the year before. I almost said talented there, but the reality is that there's a lot of talk about a talent gap, a difference between 2024 and 2025, and we don't know if there's a talent gap. I don't know that the coaches know that there's a talent gap. You would perceive a talent gap because you don't have returning starters that have the experience. It's not on tape, but there's some talent in that room. G.J. Kinney can recruit. I think it's just potential. There's a lot of potential, and we just don't know what it is, especially at the quarterback position. Brad Jackson is going to get a shot there. I believe in him, but you have to see it on the field. I think the coaching staff believes in him as well. I think he believes in himself. He was just named team captain, which I think is telling for a redshirt freshman that has not officially been named the starting quarterback. That GJ said the coaches and the players agreed on that Brad was one of the captains alongside Lincoln Perry, Dorian Strawn on the offensive side. I think that there's some potential there, and I think that especially with a young quarterback, you just don't know. He could tear it up. We could be worried about losing Brad Jackson after this year. I don't want to speak it into existence, but if we're worried about that, it means that we're probably a little better than 8-4. So 8-4 is great. I'll be happy with 8-4. I think I might be happy with 7 wins as well, just knowing that we don't have the returning production. But really, I think my floor for saying that it's a successful season, 8 wins. Does that get us into a Sun Belt championship game? Probably not. But it gets us knocking on the door. It makes the last few games of the season matter a lot. And that's all you can really ask for. Let's compete all the way into the Pac-12. But let me know what you think. Is 8-4 enough? What are your record predictions? At what point is it a successful season in your eyes as a fan? Let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Leave comments down below. We finally hit 1,000 subs, which is a wonderful achievement. It happened after the 200th episode of Win Now or Get Bent, and Kev was nice enough to ask me on, and then happened after that. Super cool. I never really thought, you plan on it, but I never really thought I would be associated with a YouTube channel that hits that 1K benchmark, and it's super cool. We're kind of reveling in that accomplishment, but that's our floor. We want to keep building. So please make sure you subscribe. Comments help us out so much. Follow us on all the socials, and we'll see you next week.